From the News Channel 5 network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Training camp week is officially upon us. Several teams around the NFL already reporting for camp. The Eagles on the practice field today. The Packers reporting up near Green Bay this afternoon, or actually early this morning, to get set for their first day of practice tomorrow. The Titans, of course, report Friday to St. Thomas Sports Park. Then their first on-field practice, which is open to the public, will be at 2:40 on Saturday afternoon. So if you want to get a glimpse of the Titans, you can come on out with us and check them out on Saturday afternoon. And I want to hear from you guys tonight. 737-7767. What is your expectation for this team? We've had a long offseason. We've had lots of changes. You've got some free agent acquisitions, one of which we'll hear from coming up on the program tonight. You've got Marcus Mariota going into year 2. You've got Mike Mularkey now as the permanent head coach. You have seemingly a better running game. You've got more pieces on the defensive side of the ball, and Dick LeBeau fully in charge to the point where he will call the defense this year. What do you expect? What do you expect from the Titans here in 2016? And what will you look for in training camp? Is there a position battle? Is there a tempo? Is it how Mariota looks? What are the things you're interested to see throughout training camp, or certainly when we get into some preseason games and get some level of a clue about this team against an opposing side? I think it's going to be interesting. Interesting to see what kind of an identity this team truly has. Because the last couple of years with Ken Whisenhunt, he was a guy who believed in the quarterback and thought his system with the right quarterback would make all the difference. He was not that focused on dominating at the line of scrimmage or being able to run the football in a smash mouth type of sense. Well, ever since Mike Mularkey has taken over, first as interim coach, and certainly this offseason, since he's had the job permanently, first it was talking about we've got to protect Marcus Mariota, protect the asset, protect the franchise. But as you get into the offseason, you hear more and more about how he wants to be a physical football team. He wants his offensive line to maul people in the trenches. And they've gone out and they traded for DeMarco Murray. They brought in Derrick Henry through the draft. These are guys that they want to hand the ball to. And not just here and there. They want it to be a staple, kind of the meat and potatoes of this offense. I think it'll be fascinating to see just how much they stick to that. And as they get into the season, can they continue to do it? Because here's the other thing. If you fall behind, which this team has done in the last few years, if you fall behind, it becomes more and more difficult to continue to hand the ball off to those guys. At some point, you've got to drop back and throw it. So can this team be in tight games? Can they get leads? Can they rely on those guys to set the pace? And can that offensive line, which is retooled once again, still looking for probably a left guard, although we'll see if by chance they maybe move Chance Warmack over there. But you're looking for a starting guard on this team, on this unit, as you get set for this season still. Going to be interesting to watch. Your thoughts on the Titans? 737-7767 is the number. Some other things going on today. The NFL came out and said Peyton Manning clear of any allegations that he used HGH or performance-enhancing drugs. They said they found no credible evidence in their 7-month-long investigation that he had anything to do with that stuff. And that he and his wife, Ashley, were fully cooperative through the entire thing. He wanted to clear his name. This is a guy who's a 5-time MVP, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, now retired. He's headed to the Hall of Fame. The last thing he wants is some sort of a dark cloud hanging over his head. And so he went after it. He confronted the allegations at first. He called them bogus. And then he agreed to everything the NFL wanted. And at the end of the day, he's now cleared. Nobody's going to suggest Peyton Manning use performance-enhancing drugs. A lot of people in this state probably expected that outcome, but also probably happy to see that outcome. The one thing I take away from the investigation, though, is they were speedy with this. It was largely done with secrecy. Why was this so different than Deflategate? I mean, we're still not completely at the end of the Deflategate thing because the NFLPA is going to push forward on this, even though Tom Brady, I think, just wants it to end at this point, finally. But we're what, 600, 700 days or something into that saga? An entire football season into a training camp now later from when that happened. And we're just now getting to the point where I think we have an end, and Tom Brady's going to be suspended for 4 games. Why was that fiasco so public and so drawn out? And yet we see here that the NFL is able to sit down and conduct an investigation on one of its star players and wrap it up nice and tidy, 7-month time. And most people maybe knew they were doing something, but didn't know step by step that they were looking into this the way we did with Deflategate. How's that happen? The NFL also announced today that Josh Gordon, the former Pro Bowl wide receiver of the Browns, has been reinstated conditionally. He'll be able to report to training camp and be a part of all of their preseason stuff. He still faces a 4-game suspension as part of these multiple violations of the league's drug policy. But if he does everything that they ask, keeps clean, he should be able to be back on the field by week 5. A huge boost for the Browns, new coach Hugh Jackson, because look, Josh Gordon, when he's right and he's on the field, he's as good as anybody in this league. So that's a huge, huge thing for the Browns, who, of course, play the Titans this coming season here in Nashville. And guess what? The game he would be coming back, Game 5, if he can stay clean and comes back, would be Game 5 for the Patriots, which is the game that Tom Brady will be coming back. So all of a sudden, a Browns-Patriots game in early October is going to be must-watch television because it'll be Tom Brady's first game of the year, and it'll be the return of Josh Gordon for Cleveland. Interesting stuff there. Florida has announced that Treon Harris, who was their starting quarterback 2 years ago as a true freshman, has decided to transfer. He got beat out last year by Will Grier, got some playing time later in the season. Ultimately, his record is 9-7 as a starter at Florida, so not particularly good. But then he got suspended in the offseason. He seemingly had worked his way back into the good graces of Jim McElwain, the head coach, this summer. But now he announces he's going to transfer. He's an athletic kid that has some level of talent. He was a all-SEC freshman player. But for whatever reason, the last year and a half has not gone well for Treon Harris at Florida, and so now he is on the open market. Luke Del Rio will enter the fall camp as the likely starter, or at least the guy in the lead in the competition, to be the Gators starting quarterback. Think about that. A couple years ago, you had Treon Harris starting as a all-SEC freshman quarterback. Last year, you had Will Grier come in and light people up to start the year off. And heading into this year, you have an open quarterback competition with another transfer. Luke Del Rio maybe going to be the starting quarterback. That's just odd when you think about how well Florida can recruit the guys that they had on their campus who played games for them. And now they're in this position in year 2 under Jim McElwain. Big reason why Tennessee is the hands-down pick in the SEC East right now. They were picked that way by the media and the coaches, and I think you'd be foolish not to. Tennessee has so many guys back. They have a quarterback that you can trust in Joshua Dobbs. And when you look at it, Georgia's got a new coach. I think they'll still be good, but they've got a new coach. South Carolina's got a new coach, and I'm not sure they're going to be very good. Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri, and here's Florida looking for a quarterback in year 2 under Jim McElwain. That is why Tennessee is a prohibitive favorite in the SEC East. There may be better teams. Whoever wins the SEC West may be a better team than Tennessee. But I'll tell you this, Tennessee's got the best odds of anybody in the SEC to get to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. Because when you look at the West, you may think Alabama, they're the defending national champ. They got a bunch of talent, and that's true. But they're looking for a quarterback in their own right. And they're going to have to go through LSU and Ole Miss and that very difficult SEC West division. And, oh, by the way, they've got to go to Neyland Stadium and take on Tennessee in the regular season. Same thing for LSU. Leonard Fournette may be the Heisman Trophy winner this year. I think he's the most talented player in college football, slightly ahead of Deshaun Watson. I think he can win the Heisman Trophy, and I think he can put LSU on its back, or on his back. But they got to go through Alabama to win the West. Ole Miss, if you think they can be up there, they got to go through LSU and Alabama to win the West. Tennessee is the dominant team on paper heading into this season. They don't have to go through anyone to win the East. They just take care of business in the East. Even if they lose to Alabama, let's say, they should win the SEC East because they're just better than what anybody else has coming back. First day of high school practice today in pads. Those kids battling out the heat. That is a tough life for those guys. And a huge trade today in baseball. The Cubs believing that this perhaps finally is their year, going all in on Aroldis Chapman, acquiring him in a trade with the Yankees. They sent 3 or 4 top prospects to New York. Well, 3 prospects and a guy that they actually previously acquired from the Yankees back to New York to get Chapman. A flame-throwing southpaw closer, probably the best closer in the game, to lock down that bullpen that has been the one question mark so far this year for the Cubs. That lineup is great. The starting pitching has been terrific for the Cubs this year. But the bullpen has let them down time and time again. Now all of a sudden you get the best closer in baseball on the back end. And here's an amazing stat to me. If you look back over, I think it's the last 6 years, over the past 6 years, all of the pitches above 100 miles per hour in baseball, Aroldis Chapman has thrown more than 1,700 pitches harder than 100 miles per hour. 1,700. He hit 105 several times last week. That is insane. The next closest guy in baseball is Yordano Ventura of the Royals, who I think the number is 534. So Chapman has nearly 3 times as many pitches of 100 miles an hour or harder than the next closest guy in baseball. That tells you how dominant this guy's arm is. And he may have a couple screws loose when you hear about some of the things off the field, but frankly, that just makes him more intimidating to me. 105 miles an hour, and it's not clear he knows exactly where it's going or that he's exactly of sound mind all the time. Talk about intimidating when you step in the batter's box. That's now what the Cubs have on the back end of their bullpen. They are clearly going all in They're in first place. They've got a big lead in the division. They're playing well after the All-Star break, after that slump heading into it. And now they have the best closer in baseball. Big trade today by the Cubs in the majors. Phone lines are open tonight. 737-7767 is the number. Want to hear from you guys on this topic. We're going to talk a lot of football tonight and training camp stuff. Rashad Johnson, Titan safety, part of Sunday Sports Central last night. We will hear from him, get some of his thoughts coming up throughout the program tonight, so you can chime in on that or any of these other things we talked about. As always, we love to hear from you guys. And Jeremy begins us off tonight. Jeremy, good evening. You're first up here on SportsLine.
Good evening. I want to talk about the Titans secondary.
Yeah.
And I think, I think Parrish Cox was the best corner we had last year. But I heard them talking today like he's fighting for the second position. And, I want to know what you think about McCourty. Is he going to be healthy enough to play the whole season or what? Because it seems like he get hurt a lot.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen during the season, but he is 100% going into training camp. And actually, the way they shut him down last year fairly early on because that groin injury just wouldn't go away, it allowed him to get the surgery that he said to me just a few weeks ago. He actually needed that probably a couple of years ago, but he just kept trying to play through it and be the same player and just gut it out because you're a football player and that's what you do. And finally last year, shutting him down allowed him to get that surgery. He was actually basically at 100% when players were packing up at the end of the year last year. So he's out now had the entire offseason to get healthy and strengthen that and come in ready for camp. So I expect you to see a very healthy and productive Jason McCourty this year, which gives you a number one cornerback, or at least in their mind, gives you that shutdown cornerback on one side. So that means Parrish Cox, who I agree with you, I think he was the best cornerback the Titans had last year, but he had his ups and downs as well. And now you bring in a guy like Bryce McCain, who had his best season in 2014 in a Dick LeBeau defense in Pittsburgh. Those two guys are going to battle it out. Somebody's going to be the outside guy. The other guy's probably going to be the slot guy. And what that does is it pushes all the other guys on this roster. Can Bleedy Ray Wilson, who was a draft pick of this team, can he become a productive guy and prove himself in a crowded room, a competitive room during training camp, that he's going to be a depth guy or that he can be the slot guy this year for this team? You draft a guy like Ladarius Sims. Where does he fit in on this team? Cody Riggs played well last year when he saw some time. B.W. Webb had some time. That's the thing, is I don't know if there's a star. I don't know if you have a Patrick Peterson or a Marcus Peters necessarily in this room. But with Jason McCourty back and the guys they've added, now all of a sudden you feel like you've got a number one, and you've got a lot of numbers there, Jeremy, to figure out who's number two, who's the slot guy, and who are your depth guys in that room. And I think the Titans feel pretty comfortable about that right now. We'll see how it plays out, but I think they like the depth they have there right now.
All right, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, we appreciate the call. Who is that, Courtney? Breeze, let's go to you. Breeze, good evening. You're next up here.
Hey, man, I got a kind of a double question here.
Go ahead.
First one, at the end of the mini camps and the OTAs, Marcus Mariota had said he was going to get with the receivers before training camp, them kind of touch base before they got into practice. I just want to know if you knew anything about that. And the second one, an unknown here, undrafted free agent come in, Antoine Woods, man from USC. I figured he might kind of slide in with Casey, with them being from USC. Tell me what you might know about Antoine Woods. I want to hear what you got to say there, Cat Daddy. See you.
Thanks, Breeze. We appreciate the call. Antoine Woods is a guy who played a lot at USC. He was highly thought of out there in that. He doesn't time out super well in some of the things, so that is why he went undrafted. He's not a guy that sort of pops off the charts at anybody at the NFL level, but he was a productive college player there. And I think if you look at some of the undrafted guys, if you're trying to pick out one or two that maybe step up and possibly have a chance to make this team, I think Antoine Woods is a really good place to look. I also think a guy on the offensive line, Tyler Mraz, who played at Wisconsin, he's another guy that I think you can look at there. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anybody else, but those are certainly two that stand out to me as undrafted free agents that have a shot here. Now, the thing about the defensive line is obviously you got Casey playing on the defensive line. He's going to be out there every snap they can have him on the field. Al Woods played well for this team last year. Daquan Jones has really improved himself now. His buddy, Austin Johnson, was a second-round draft pick out of Penn State. Those guys are all going to see the field a lot and have significant spots for this team. You've got a guy like Carl Klug who's played for you in the past, Rapati Patoa-Tua. So you've got some numbers there. So Antoine Woods is going to have to earn a spot if he's going to do it. But I think you're right. If you're looking for an intriguing guy of the undrafted free agents, I think he's certainly one of them. And as far as the quarterbacks and receivers getting together, I haven't heard anything specifically about it, but I think a handful of them probably are throwing this week. Probably started today, maybe over the weekend, in terms of getting out on the field and just getting some of the timing back. It's not going to be anything too intense because here's the thing. They have a lot of time on the field in the month of August and a bunch of games to work through all this stuff. And you hear sometimes with quarterbacks, you almost get a dead arm during training camp from throwing so much. So I don't think whatever they're doing this week, they're not out there for a long time on the field or taking a ton of balls, but maybe doing just enough that they can work the rust out a bit so that when they hit the field on Saturday of this week and into next week, that they can kind of pick it up right where they left off. That's the whole goal. Just get out, work out some of the fudge from the last few weeks, and get some of that timing back. All right, we got to take a break. We are way behind here, but when we come back, we will hear from one of the newest Titans. Rashad Johnson came in. He was a part of Sunday Sports Central last night, kind of our analyst for the night, and the newest Titans safety. We'll hear from him coming back on the other side here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.